A disability is something that has a major impact on your life.
Every disability is different.
And it's never the same thing for two people. I am blind in my right eye totally, and partially sighted in my left eye.
I was 18 years old. We were traveling way too fast on a gravel road. Broke my neck, my back.
My Asperger's syndrome and my cerebral palsy.
I have anxiety and depression. People would have no idea just talking to me.
Being independent means different things to different people.
I want to live in my own house. I want to pay my own bills.
Live independently and not rely on other people.
When someone is not able to live as independently as they can, it does have a detrimental effect on people's physical and mental well-being.
It's no complicated thing. It's just that people with disabilities want to be included.
Plenty of people get stuck in ruts when they feel like they can't overcome something in their life. That's where Lyft comes in.
Living independently for today and tomorrow. Lyft. We help people of all ages and all types of disabilities find the resources or acquire the skills to live as independently as possible.
We serve the southeastern 18 counties here at the Billings office. We have a variety of things that we offer. We can help with grant funding for adaptive equipment.
Maybe a home modification so they're able to access their home. We help people to find that funding.
Helping people apply for Social Security benefits.
Medicaid, Medicare, housing.
They have a peer support group. Peer support, I think, is key.
Sharing life experiences is one of the most powerful things to help people who might be new to disability, who might be struggling with their disability.
Youth transitions is kids that are transitioning out of high school. They need to learn those adulting skills. It might be rent an apartment, learn how to grocery shop, budgeting.
Help someone advocate for themselves in a school or an employment setting. One of our biggest strengths is providing folks with information and referral. If we can't help you, we hope to know who can.
A lot of times we'll have a potential consumer call in and they think that they just have one need, and it turns out that we end up finding 3 or 4 things we can actually do for them.
You can just come in and say, hey, I feel like I have this going on. Can you help me? And we can, which is so cool to me. I love that.
Most of us on staff at Lyft have identified ourselves as having one or more disabilities. That is helpful in many cases.
It's easier to empathize with someone when you yourself have struggled with a disability.
This is what we specialize in. This is who we are, and this is what we do.
And it costs nothing to go to Lyft. It's a nonprofit organization and they're there to help.
Somebody that was a consumer that was working with Lyft was asked to do an art project. He visualized that the balloon helps to lift people up. And then it became the logo, and it's stuck.
There's been success on all kinds of levels.
It's really rewarding to have a consumer go, hey, I was able to do this by myself today.
We want people to live their best life as independent as possible.
Live as everyone else in society and live as a part of society, not apart from society.
Everybody needs help. Sometimes you just need a little more help, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
There's plenty of life to live still, and there's a way you can do it. Keep chipping away at it, little by little by little.
Knowledge is power. Let's share it, for crying out loud.
Send us an email, give us a call. We'll do our best to help.
We can definitely help figure out what your needs are and get started on that. We're one of many steps in the path to independence, and we're happy to be serving people here in the community.
Good day and welcome to Living Well in Montana. Living Well in Montana is a program of living independently for today and tomorrow, or LIFT, L-I-F-T-T as we often call ourselves. LIFT is what is known as a Center for Independent Living, meaning that we are a center of advocacy, resources, and programming for people with disabilities to help them achieve and maintain their independence in their homes and their communities. We serve a 18 county area of south central and southeastern Montana. For more information about LIFT, I encourage you to visit our website at lift.org or give us a call either at our Billings office at 406-259-5181 or our Glendive office at 406-948-8500. Again, the disability rights field is one that is constantly changing and updating with each and every news cycle, and so we're fortunate to have with us today to help break down some of what's happened since the last time he was here. David Carlson, the Executive Director of Disability Rights Montana. David, welcome back.
Oh, thanks for having me.
First, what a little bit about what's been going on with Disability Rights Montana.
Sure. So we have been continuing to advocate. We advocate for people with disabilities across the state. So I love when I get a chance to come out and talk to the folks in your viewing audience. Since we last met, we talked a little bit about some advocacy that was done last time around Section 504 and keeping the protections that we've had for 50 years in that law, maintaining those. Well, I have another 50-year-old law and an update on that. Since we last met, we have settled and won a lawsuit with the state of Montana. Disability Rights Montana sued to enforce the education rights of children with disabilities across the state, and now has completely transformed what high school will look like for students with disabilities who have individual education programs, or an IEP, as a lot of people hear about it. But Montana was the last state in the entire country that did not follow federal law when it comes to students with disabilities, and most school districts kicked kids out at 18. They said, oh, if you haven't graduated yet with a typical diploma where you take so much math courses and English courses and all that, if you didn't meet all of those criteria, you're out. But now you get to go to school until you're 22. So it doubles the length of time that students have to prepare for adulthood.
So, and that's for students with IEPs, and again, it's not, it's a important step because again, we had an incident in Billings a few years ago with a young woman, I believe, West High, I think, who thought she was going to graduate and then was told she wasn't, or something like that,
and had to fight to get more education services. Now it should be the standard across the entire state.
Right.
Every student who has an IEP. Now, if I can back up for a second, sometimes we talk about this category, special education. I don't think there's anything all that special about expecting educators teaching children the way they learn. So some children learn using certain interventions, and other children learn in other ways. Everyone's different in how they learn. So that's not really special, but it's in this area, a lot of times we talk about either IEPs or 504 plans. And this applies specifically to students with individual education programs. So IEPs, not 504 plans.
Okay, and maybe remind folks what sort of the difference
Sure.
is? 'Cause
There are specific disabilities that qualify as disabilities under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And people love acronyms, so that's IDEA or IDEA. And that is an old law from the 70s. It's 50 years old this year. And if you have one of those qualifying disabilities, you can get specialized instruction and other services to support your education. Now, those are sort of additional services coming on board. With a 504 plan, that is, if you're familiar with a reasonable accommodation at work or in some business, it's kind of like that, where maybe you need extra time on a test. You don't need a speech-language pathologist to come work with you specifically and give you additional educational services or additional services to aid in your education, but you need a little more time on a test. Well, then you may just get a 504 plan, and that is an accommodation or a modification in how you are graded or how the instruction comes out to you. So depending on your disability and depending on your education needs, you may need one or the other. But when it comes to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, there are students who qualify. Maybe they have an intellectual disability and it takes longer to learn certain skills.
Right.
They may not graduate by the time they're 18, but given a few more years, they may graduate.
Right.
Or given a few more years, they can gain additional employment skills or life skills that are necessary to go to more schooling after high school, or to get a job after high school, or to live more independently after high school. Because again, what is high school for everybody? Not in some special way, but for everybody, high school is that time where we try to prepare you for adulthood in our education system. Now students, when they're coming into high school, if they have an IEP, they know, I've got until I'm 22, I've got 8 years to work with here to learn all the things I need to learn. So let's use that entire arc of time, as opposed to let's use 4 years that everyone typically would think you have. Under the IDEA, if you need more time, you can get more time. So now the standard should be, we're talking to kids when they're coming into high school and trying to figure out, what do you want to do after high school? And know that you've got 8 years to prepare for that. Right. You might not need or want all of those, but you have that much time.
That was my next thing, is that we're not keeping people.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if you want to leave school, and I hated high school, I get it. But if you say could structure some of those later years as more job skill development, working on, I want to learn welding. Well, instead of trying to cram all of that into the first 4 years, maybe spread that out over more time. Or work with the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. They have staff, that's a different state agency, not your local school district, has staff to work with students who are in high school who have disabilities to prepare for work. This gives you more time to work with those folks and pull them in. You may not know that those individuals are available. So you should know that, and then ask them. They can come to your IEP meeting and work with your the rest of your team, your teachers, to figure out how can we support you to use all of this 8 years to really prepare you to have a good job, be able to move into your own apartment, do all of the things that everyone wants to do when you're chomping at the bit at 18. Like, I want to get out of here. Well, let's use school as much as we can to help you make that transition.
Okay, well, that's great. And again, it's interesting that I know that we had, the Montana Centers for Independent Living had tried to go the legislative route a couple of times, and unfortunately it never got off the ground. And
yeah, that's the frustrating thing. And I just wrote a Substack article about that this week. If I can plug Disability Rights Montana Substack growth rings. And if you don't know what a Substack is, I didn't know what it was until a few months ago when we started doing them. But it's a way of sending out newsletters in a newfangled electronic way. You can either go to an app to get them or just have them emailed to you. That's what I do. I have them emailed to me. And so I follow a couple of different email lists and I can manage them there. And we have an email distribution, so we send out this newsletter. And that's what this week's was about, was we had asked, like the independent living centers had been asking for this law to be followed. As I said, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is 50 years old. There was a federal court case out of Hawaii in 2013. And ever since then, so for over 10 years, we've been asking the legislature, follow that case. Hawaii was doing exactly what we're doing, and the federal court said that was violating the law. And we should fix it.
I can't remember the exact verbiage, but the free
appropriate public education
is the federal verbiage. I was trying to think what the verbiage in the Montana Constitution is, that because I can remember testifying and saying that that for students with an IEP who need that extra time, that verbiage, that's part of meeting the responsibility not only federally, but as one might interpret the state constitution.
Well, and what's frustrating is we set out requirements, we set out policies saying we as a country, we as a state believe these certain things to be true, that we want all kids to benefit from their schooling, we want to educate them, we want to have a well-informed, high-skilled population to be neighbors to one another, to be good consumers and good workers, and we even write laws saying if someone has a disability and they need this extra time or a little bit of extra service, we will deliver these things. Unfortunately, it's not enough to just come up with the good idea and to say, hey, everybody do it. You do need sometimes someone to come in and say, you're not following the law, you need to follow the law. I just drove 4 hours to get here from Helena. I didn't see a cop doing radar checks. But we're all familiar with that, right? There is a posted speed limit. We're all going to go 80. That's plenty fast. Sometimes there's construction. Went through a lot of construction getting here. Go down to 35. That's to keep everyone safe. No one would get mad at the police officer and the judge for enforcing a ticket against someone who's going 100 miles an hour when it's supposed to be 80, or someone who's going 80 when it's supposed to be 35. They're like, you knew you weren't supposed to be doing this, yet you chose to do this. Don't get mad at the messenger. Don't get mad at the police officer who pulled you over, or the judge who enforced the law. And yet, that's what this week's Substack is about, is somehow litigious has a dirty word, and I don't think it should. I think what should have a dirty word is breaking the law. If you are a local school district, if you're a state agency, and you are routinely breaking the law every single day for years and years, up to decades, and you continue to break the law, don't get frustrated then when someone finally takes you to court and said, you got to stop breaking the law here. And instead, when there is a new lawsuit filed, ask yourself, how did we get here? Why did we have to get here? Because an agency like ours, we're small. I've had to make layoffs this year because of our federal funding situation and the uncertainty of what's going on forward. And we're not going around picking fights willy-nilly in different places. We are, and lawsuits take a long time to prepare and to push forward. They're expensive. And they're not really the best way to solve problems. The best way to solve problems is to sit down and talk them out. But when you've got someone or a group of people or agencies who continually break the law, and you talk to them about, hey, could you fix this? And like, nope, we're not going to. Then you end up having to file lawsuits. And so, to learn more about kind of what goes into the thought process behind filing lawsuits, or why I think all advocacy is conflict oriented, even when you want to be a nice solutions oriented person, you are working on finding solutions to problems, and people don't like being reminded of problems. People may not even agree with you that a problem exists.
Right.
And in being the person who points out that there is a turd in the punch bowl, you now are the person associated with that. You didn't put it there, but everybody is really disgusted by your actions. When you're the advocate trying to fix the situation, you're trying to warn people, and let's fix this. So, take a look at our Substack and sign. If folks want to sign up and get weekly newsletters about where the law is going with respect to people with disabilities in Montana, where we're trying to push disability culture, much like this show. We want there to be a robust conversation about disability in our community. Disability is not a bad word. Disability is part of our community. So let's talk about it. Let's make our communities work for people with disabilities. And as I've been saying a lot lately, let's make Montana culture disability culture. That's the gold standard of acceptance and inclusion, is what you see when people with disabilities get together. Montana could learn a lot from how we all interact with each other and are attuned to and really trying to include each other, and knowing that nobody has the same needs. That's not special, meeting other people's needs. That's just hospitable, that's welcoming, that's warm and inviting.
Which is, the classic way we think of ourselves as Montanans, as
absolutely
good neighbors. And, and again, you get a, so, trying to think. So you mentioned, having to lay some folks off. What is the status of your federal funding? And as we're taping this, the federal government is still shut down.
Right. We're not sure. There's a lot of question marks there. Over the weekend, we're recording this on a Tuesday, but over the weekend, the federal administration has laid off a lot of federal employees. So there's this unprecedented is a word that's often overused, but it is, where the administration and Congress, although they're part of the same political party, aren't really talking to each other or working in concert with each other, so it's hard to tell. Both the Senate and the House that have looked at our budget have level funded us for the future year. I think that's best case scenario for us, is just to get level funding. Now, insurance rates are going to go way up this year. We've had inflation a lot over the last several years. That level funding isn't truly level funding, but I'll take it in this economy. But the president's budget zeroes out several of our programs. That means eliminates them, and then takes like our one of our largest, our second largest grant that focuses on people with mental illness. So the work we do at Montana State Hospital to address allegations of abuse and neglect, or the work we do when people are discharged inappropriately and trying to support them, or they're trying to access services in the community. That grant, the president has put in his budget that it would be cut by 2/3, so about 65% less than it was in the past. So it's hard to know what we're actually going to get, and even when Congress does pass a budget, we're not really sure if the administration will hand all that money out right away. For example, we had $60,000 that we had been awarded earlier in the year that we didn't get until a couple weeks before the end of the fiscal year, and we were supposed to be working on that all last fiscal year. So there are just lots of uncertainty about the amount of money we might be getting
Right.
in the fiscal year that started at the beginning of this month. So we're now
Yeah.
in uncharted territories. We don't know, and typically we go into these government shutdowns, now that there is such a thing as a typical government shutdown, we would assume, okay, coming out of it, we'll, at worst have level funding or be cut 1 or 2%.
Right.
But we don't know that. At worst, we could have
Right.
whole programs closed down and some of our biggest programs slashed over 50%. So we're not quite sure. And so we're in a lot of limbo. We've tried to put ourselves in a financial position where we can continue to do the most essential work for the next several months without any new federal money, using what reserves we have to keep our staff going and doing the important work that they need to be doing. We have a couple of large class action lawsuits that are still moving forward. We have a large investigation of, a large monitoring project of assisted living facilities. We are working right now with a coalition of assisted living facility providers and the state agency that oversees assisted living services to try to develop a new service delivery model that will be more community-based and less hospital-based for people with significant mental health needs and co-occurring dementia. So if you have both dementia and some behavioral or mental health needs, you wouldn't need to go to Montana State Hospital. You could stay in your own local community in a small setting. And there's a lot of important work that continues to move on that we can't just shut down 100% and wait for the federal government to come up with a budget.
Right.
So there's been a lot of planning over the last 6, 7, 9 months of seeing how the federal government is allocating money, but also distributing that money once it is allocated. That's probably deeper than most people want to know, but know that these are the types of things that the executive directors of the independent living centers, the protection advocacy systems, your local Head Start program, your SNAP benefit administrators, all of that federal money that moves around local state governments and nonprofits has a ripple effect, and there are people on the ground who have to spend their time figuring out, how do I pay salaries, how do I keep the lights on, and keep services delivered to the people that the federal government has said they want these services delivered to. We were created because Congress said we need independent advocates in every state and territory to do legal advocacy for people with disabilities. So Congress said they wanted it, and they have funded it. Now the administration has got to figure out a way to distribute that money to those programs that Congress wants, but it just, this last weekend, laid off almost all of the staff at Department of Education that oversees education rights for students with disabilities, also that distributes a few of our grants that are around helping people with disabilities secure employment. And they have laid off the folks who oversee our mental health programs as well.
Well, that's unfortunate, and I hate to end it there, but our time is up, and we'll definitely have you back again, David. Thank you for joining us. This has been Living Well in Montana, a program of living independently for today and tomorrow. My name is Jed Barton, and for more information, please visit our website at liftt.org, and also check out the website for Disability Rights Montana, which is disabilityrightsmt.org.
Yes.
All right. Thanks.